nearly 15 years ago, when oil was discovered in commercial quantities in the Atlantic Ocean, nearly 63 kilometers from the shore, our neighbors, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, contested Ghana's claim. They said, no, the oil belongs to them. And I'm sure some of you heard what happened. The case went as far as to the International Court of Justice in The Hague for a determination to be made. These developments clearly show that nation building can be a geopolitical effort and an attempt to expand, incorporate, and dominate neighbors in the same area. The story of the slave trade, colonialism, current international affairs continue to point to the challenge of nation building being a forceful takeover, annexation, and control of otherwise sovereign countries with all the trappings of their own independence and direction as a nation state. We were here when the Portuguese came to Elmina. And they came as friends? No. They came to exploit the things that we had. From the gold, they went down to slaves. 12 million Africans were taken to the Americas to go and work for free as human what? Human burden, just beasts of burden. You have no identity, no dignity. In the work of a former First Lady of Ghana, Nana Kunedu Agyemang Rawlings, her work is, it takes a woman, a life shaped by heritage, leadership, and the women who define hope. She knows that the British significantly altered to the detriment of Ashanti, their wealth and their power, as they took away gold, and the entire Ashanti kingdom was annexed into the British colony. Further, the British also added the northern territories of the then Gold Coast against their will. So nation building can be brutal, it can be detrimental, and not so great. So why do we even want to talk about it, Dean? What do we want to talk about it, head of department? Because what has Athens to do with Jerusalem? Indeed, the question may be asked, what kind of nation building can we consider? Looking at the labels that characterize the ideal types of these nations. Oh, it's a capitalist country. So if they are building capitalism, private ownership, and free market, Adam Smith, the wealth of nations, I'm sure we ought to face it now. Then, how is the church going to be connected with that? If you're talking about socialism, public or collective ownership, Karl Marx, religion in that context, he said, is what? The opium of the people. Or if you talk about communism, stateless, classless society with collective ownership of all the means of production, modern day China, and related territories. So the bottom line is, all these nations, they have what? Presuppositions, pre-understanding. They want to do something to just what? Make the nation great. Somebody says he's going to make his country great. Who is that? Let him make that country great. But even though we see all these things, that is not the end of the story. There is much more to it in the capitalism, socialism, and all of that. No one has fully implemented these approaches. No country has fully implemented these approaches. These basically get fused together rather than a dichotomous society in which is communism, and so everything is like that. Or it's capitalism. Everybody get your own bootstraps. There are welfare institutions, there are organizations that help out, and we are going to isolate those things. But these basically get fused. So Margaret Mead, a famous anthropologist, calls this consensus and conflict. The situation where, although they would appear as if they are capitalists and still veer to the other side, she sees that as consensus and conflict. Contrasting this with the church, we come to a very important and interesting institution. The Christian goal of being pilgrims who seek to transform the world so that their influence will prepare the ground for eternity appears to be the number one concern of the church, and therefore should not be seen to be involved in other pursuits such as nation building. They come with philosophies that appear to be quite different. That's in one direction, the church will seem to have no business in nation building. The nation will seem not to be related to the otherworldly orientation of the church. However, it is not separate as much as we think they are. Some common grounds can be established for both institutions, for those two institutions to work together. A realistic review shows that they overlap each other, but they must not be completely fused together. What we might see is a thin line for each as they travel on analogous roads, accommodating each other but staying separate. If a church becomes fused to the nation state, then you become what? The Eastern Orthodox Church in Ukraine, in Russia, in Turkey. Basically, the doctrine of the state is also the doctrine of the religious group. Unfortunately, in a lot of Western countries, the political order is directing the church. Christian nationalism in some Western countries is becoming a common phenomenon. God has been building a nation state since creation. We are introduced to the presentation of one true God in control of his creation against the deities of Mesopotamia, who presented similar but mythical sources of creation accounts. The distinctiveness of Yahweh is that he is the one and only. The rest of the Old Testament accounts follows his building a nation to show his distinctiveness. Stephen Adey, my former boss at GIMPA, says the Judeo-Christian worldview of religion and economic development is very explicit in the Bible. Scripture links the material and military position of Israel to the spiritual state of the Jews at any time. There are more than 2,000 verses in the Bible which address issues of employer-employee relationship, poverty and wealth, unacceptable exploitation of others, land distribution, debt management under the Jubilee system. So it will mean that indeed there were other means to approaching the relationships in the community. The Old Testament points to creation and the beauty of each day, bringing something related to God's own nature of purity, sustainability, purposefulness of his power, glory, and majesty. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the face of the deep. The Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw the light was good. And from day 1, day 2, day 3, all the way to the 6th day, everything was good. And the climax of the 6th day, what did God say about what he created? Everything was very good. Very good. Qualitatively higher than good, but everything was very good. So God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky," and all of that. But humanity didn't last long in the garden. Sin did set apart mankind and God. And this process led to the departure from that exotic garden which God had created for human habitation. Consequently, humanity continued to sin to the point where God himself punished the earth with a flood. Next, various groupings numbering up to about 70 began to emerge from the seed of Noah. As human ambitions gained ground, there was the emergence of the Tower of Babel with an interest for reaching up to God through human inventions, essentially seeking to reach up to God for their own vain glory. We are confronted with the incredible events in Genesis 11, when God changes everything by introducing different languages so that the unity for bad people purposes may be broken. Evil still being the intent of humanity, God chose Abraham as the father of a people group he will call his own, as he molded them into his own nation. Deuteronomy 26:18. "I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing to the world. In all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Throughout the rest of the Old Testament, the attention was focused on God's dealing with the descendants of Abraham, who became the nation of Israel. From this development, it is obvious that God himself was a nation builder. As this process is evident in the selection of leaders and equipping of this host of servants of Israel, who were judges, priests, prophets, and seers. And the criteria for selection and for whether you did a good job or a bad job depended on your relationship with Yahweh. The distinctive issue about this group being God's own is contrasted with the surrounding nations as to what God did for their survival, development, progress, and in times of crisis. The exodus of Israel under the leadership of Moses from Egypt is a major motif in the Old Testament. It demonstrated that God was in the building of the nation at every point, and that he was well aware and present to enable them to overcome crisis. Indeed, Moses told the children of Israel that God intended to make them a model nation and an example that other nations could follow. It is instructive to put in perspective that following this important event, which received prominence in the Hebrew scriptures, it is equally significant that in the different phases of the life of Israel as a nation, God, as the builder of the nation, always has specific approaches towards individual rights, relationship between individuals and groups, treatment of the poor, justice, values that cause critically for everyone's well-being. At Mount Sinai, they were introduced to the laws of God amidst a spectacular display of lightning, thunder, and smoke. God gave the 10 commandments that were to form the foundational values of the new nation. Next development, the institution of kingship in Israel, which was understood as being a pragmatic approach towards the challenges to the nation state, illustrates God's presence and his willingness to build a nation state consistent with his nature and will. The context is where Israel was located, between two powerful nations, Babylon and Egypt. These superpowers were always seeking to expand their territories, because that's what big nations try to do. That means each time a powerful king arose in Egypt, he will march on Babylon, or Egypt will march on Babylon. Up and coming kingdoms like the Philistines were huge threats to Israel as well. In response to these challenges, Israel thought their problem was the lack of a centralized political system that would enable them to go to war under the leadership of a grand king like the other nations. God, the builder of his own nation, however, showed that the direction of Israel towards a monarchical form of government was a misplaced move and not consistent with his own presence nor leadership in their midst. So in 1 Samuel 8, verse 6 following, here is Samuel addressing the issue of the kingship. As they asked him, give us a king to lead us. This displeased Samuel, so he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord told him, listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. As they have done from the day I brought them out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods. So they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly, and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights. And what is that? It is the pagan approach to kingship. God is their king. He is there for them. He fights their battles for them. But they want the secular kingship. Samuel told them the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. He said, this is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his right. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses. They will run in front of his chariots. He will assign some to the commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvests, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take a tenth of your grain and of your vintage and give them to his officials and attendants. Your male and female servants and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own use. He will take a tenth of your flock, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want a king over us. Then we'll be like the other nations, with a king to lead us and go out before us and fight our battles. When Samuel heard that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. The Lord answered, listen to them and give them a king. So the rest of the Old Testament is replete with the account of the kings of Israel and whether they did right or wrong in the sight of the Lord. The whole idea is to show that when God is building a nation, he does so on the principles of common good, keeping faith with the people, ensuring they are safe, and that the institutions are not run on arbitrary terms. Compared to the early church, there are quite a number of developments that we see. I may simplify them into 5 basic approaches. There are requirements to be a proclaiming community. The goodness of Jesus coming to the earth to take on a human form so that he will complete the redemptive offer of incorporation to the kingdom of God. Therefore, the church as a community must respond to the marching order of the king to go out into all the world proclaiming Jesus as Lord and equipping everyone to bow before him and become part of his kingdom. This important aspect of service in the kingdom is fundamental to being transformed from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of God's dear Son. 2, another aspect of the mission of God's people is to live a transformational life before all people as an authentic process of appropriating the essence of the redemption in Christ. Christians are called to live out their faith in a manner consistent with God's holiness. This lifestyle involves the covenant of marriage, the relationship between parents and children, fellowship among the Christian community, acts of kindness and sharing, and practices involving emotional intelligence, moral intelligence, social intelligence, financial intelligence, and leadership intelligence. Embracing the holistic life of God's community offers a functional process of being in the Jesus community as one true self and also as a demonstration to the community and beyond. 3, the church exists as a worshiping community, praise, adoration, admonition, and supplication. 4, the church acts as a prophetic community. This is key in its existence. It checks itself as a barometer for righteous living. This is not a matter limited to only the members, but also the larger society. Prophetic in the sense that it must censure the going-ons of society as part of being responsible of ensuring that everybody matters in the Jesus community. This may not issue into wholly a Christian community. It comes from boardroom discussions and engagement with leadership to participation in boycotts and sometimes mass demonstrations, which will appear to be necessary to ensure that the believing community is represented in the issues of the community at large. The church, in the 5th place, exists as a pilgrim community expecting a brief existence and eternal rest with their Father. Therefore, on a regular basis, it considers the current state as not home, but a mere journey in a land where all will be destroyed and swallowed up. Instead, the church looks forward to another life where there shall be no more pain, no more tears, for the former things would have passed away. Similarly, the groaning and the pain are all for a periodic time, and at the appropriate time all shall pass away. This pilgrim orientation means that the church is not necessarily seeking to invest in this world. It casts the bread in hand in the waters, and it shall be gathered in the bosom of Abraham. On the issue of key elements in the kingdom-initiated community, there are key texts that demonstrate some critical elements in this movement. Amos 5. There are those who hate the one, verse 10. There are those who hate the one who opposes justice in court and detest the one who tells the truth. You levy a straw tax on the poor and impose a tax on their grain. Therefore, though you have built stone mansions, you will not live in them. Though you have planted lush vineyards, but you have planted lush vineyards, you will not drink their wine. For I know how many are your offenses and how great your sins. There are those who oppress the innocent and take bribes and deprive the poor of justice in the courts. Therefore, the prudent keep quiet in such times, for the times are evil. Seek good, not evil, that you may live. Then the Lord Almighty will be with you, just as you say he is. Hate evil, love good, maintain justice in the courts. Perhaps the Lord God Almighty will have mercy on the remnant of Joseph. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the God Almighty says. There shall be wailing. Thank you. There shall be wailing in the streets and cries of anguish in every public square. The farmers will be summoned to weep and the mourners to wail. There will be wailing in all the vineyards, for I will pass through your midst, says the Lord. Verse 18. Woe to you who long for the day of the Lord. Why do you long for the day of the Lord? That day will be darkness, not light. It will be as though a man fled from a lion to meet a bear, as though he entered his house and rested his hand on the wall, only to have a snake bite him. Will not the day of the Lord be darkness, not light? Pitch dark, without a ray of brightness? I hate, I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Though you bring church fellowship offerings, I will have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. But let justice roll like a river, righteousness like a never-ending stream. Did you bring me sacrifices and offerings 40 years in the wilderness, people of Israel? You have lifted up the shrine of your king, the pedestal of your idols, the star of your God. And this seemed to summarize to say that in the society God built as his nation, there should be ethical living. There should be principles by which people live by. And those principles should guide everything. So the weak and the vulnerable should not be taken advantage of. Again, in Matthew 25:34 following, the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance. The kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison or go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for me, for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So, when we put all this together, we are beginning to see that the secular nation, as we will call it, the multi-dimensional country, the pluralistic community that we see, there are certain values that it has, the same way that the Christian or the church also would have. So, just a little comment from our 1992 Constitution here in Ghana. Freedom from the 1992 Constitution in Ghana. The government is responsible for ensuring that the state is secure, economically viable, education is available, and the state is integrated in a manner that ensures everyone's freedom and well-being. This is what we call the directive principles of state policy. Article 34 of our Constitution says, the state shall endeavor to secure and protect a social order founded on the ideals and principles of freedom, equity, justice, probity, and accountability. And in particular, the state shall direct its policy towards ensuring that every citizen has equality of life. Ghana shall be a democratic state dedicated to the realization of freedom and justice, and accordingly, sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana, from whom government derives all its powers and authority through the Constitution. The state shall protect and safeguard the independence, unity, and territorial integrity of Ghana, and shall seek the well-being of all her citizens. The state shall promote just and reasonable access by all citizens to public facilities and services in accordance with law. The state shall cultivate among Ghanaians respect for fundamental human rights, and freedoms and the dignity of the human person. The state shall actively promote the integration of the peoples of Ghana and prohibit discrimination and prejudice on the grounds of place of origin, circumstances of birth, ethnic origin, gender, religion, creed, or other beliefs. And the state shall take appropriate measures to foster a spirit of loyalty to Ghana that overrides sectional, ethnic, and other loyalties. Achieve reasonable regional and gender balance, provide adequate facilities, and encourage free mobility of people, goods, and services throughout Ghana. As I read through this in our Constitution, Article 34, 35, 36, and 37, it almost says like you are reading the book of Amos. Are we on the same page? It sounds like you are reading the book of Amos. Now, make democracy a reality by decentralizing the administrative and financial machinery of government to the regions and districts, and by affording all possible opportunities to the people to participate in decision-making at every level in national life and in government. Ensure that whenever practicable, the headquarters of a government institution shall be designated. As far as practicable, government shall continue and execute projects. Now listen to this. As far as practicable, a government shall continue and execute projects and programs commenced by the previous governments. The state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and the abuse of power. The state shall promote among the people of Ghana the culture of political tolerance. The state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment and public assistance to the needy. I hear Amos here. The state shall in particular take all necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy whose underlying principles shall include the guarantee of a fair and realistic remuneration for production and productivity in order to encourage continual production and higher productivity, affording ample opportunity for individual initiative and creativity, ensuring that individuals and private sector bear their fair share of social and national responsibilities, including responsibilities to contribute to the overall development of the country. The recognition that the most secure democracy is the one that assures the basic necessities of life for each people as a fundamental duty. So you have these key things that are all mentioned. We can get on education, we can get on elections, and many other things that affect our lives as Ghanaians. So the bottom line is there are so many things here that our secular nation aspires to undertake, which essentially looks like what Amos, Jesus Christ in Matthew 25, and other related passages seek to communicate to us of taking care of the vulnerable, the poor, and even the community where we are as members. So, a further understanding of the preparedness of the state to provide the necessary context and resources for human well-being may be seen in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Some 17 critical areas of human life have been isolated as needing significant attention for qualitative improvement by 2030. I have summarized this briefly here because they are quite substantial. The first one is on ending poverty in all its forms everywhere. As much as we are aware, poverty is socially constructed, depends on where you are. But there are some visible signs that shows the poor are with us. Being below the poverty line means living on incomes that are considered insufficient for meeting basic necessities of life. In the extreme solution, it includes not having anything on their backs, not having shelter, and difficulty of living a meaningful life. 2, zero hunger. Here, the focus is to achieve food security and improvements in the nutrition of communities and the practice of sustainable agriculture. 3, good health and well-being as targets for all ages to increase life expectancy of all persons. 4, quality education where an inclusive system for every child and with every form of disability will be given an education that will promote their inclusion in society and also provide the means for livelihood. Also, female education that often terminates early is addressed to give all females opportunity to participate in equal environment of educational experiences. To this end, it is expected that school facilities will have access to electricity, internet, computer labs, drinking water, toilets, and a general area where children can play and have a stimulating environment for growth. While academics must be a sure emphasis, the entire educational process must embrace a holistic worldview of who they are and what they aspire to become. Another goal is to ensure the availability of water and sanitation. And I tell you, sanitation, they should have put it there 2 times. Yes, water and sanitation. Both. This is a huge expectation, rightly so, because of the menace of plastic use and poor discarding practices. To speak broadly about the issue of waste management, many societies are being engulfed by the lack of proper waste disposal of both liquid and solid waste. Some of these with waste dumps are harmful to human existence due to the odor, smoke, and the combination of acids, especially the existence of a huge collection of non-biodegradable materials. 6, the challenge of having employment that are decent and providing realistic wages as a further challenge. There are many young men and women leaving the walls of schools, colleges, and universities without finding jobs. In many cases, following the national service, some of these young men and women continue to volunteer at organizations where their services are neither needed nor expected. In fact, in some cases, these young men and women do not have a chair in that office to sit down to work. Illegal migrations. Many young men and women flock to the city as an incessant quest for jobs that do not exist. Many are therefore frustrated by the process. Some fall into prostitution, while others into armed robbery. There are many who leave the shores of the country with an intention to make it to Europe for greener pastures. Many are swindled by middlemen who do not stay honest to the terms and agreement for assisting individuals who undertake such dangerous trips. Many are often reported dead. The need to curb illegal migrations are critical in these circumstances. 8, and that's the last one. Our societies continue to be tribal communities. In some instances, the divisions are marked by ethnicity, religious divisions, social mobility, and educational levels. These different social arrangements continue to keep the poor and the marginalized in the low positions and give them little opportunity for upward mobility. It appears there are some people who are untouchable by the law and therefore will walk away because they can pay their way. The legal process continues to be favorable to those who can afford, while those who live below the poverty line continue to suffer injustice. So, pitching this together, we are beginning to see that the challenge in the church and the challenge in the nation state have some overlapping issues. Towards a conclusion, the discussion so far has outlined the prominent role of the church. It has also examined the different areas of nation building. It is obvious that there is a tension between these two institutions. The church aspires to be a distinct community of persons called out by Jesus, living in a covenant relationship with him unto eternity. The nation state is an umbrella term consisting of all manner of persons in a pluralistic community. It will appear that the conclusions that can be drawn out of these differences are obvious. However, it can also be demonstrated that there is a necessary point of contact, that this contact fosters the coexistence of a mutually reinforcing community. And I take that again, very important. It appears that this point of contact fosters the coexistence of a mutually reinforcing community. Therefore, a model of integration of the common areas in the church that supports community development or nation building, and the development of the church that supports, of the nation that supports the church, can all be developed. The integration process will be issued in certain social actions that enable society to thrive and to progress, while the church equally expands in numbers and in spiritual quality. Reflecting on the policy dimensions that inform nation building, Kwame Odetete offers that evolving political and social change in Africa necessitates innovation in policy making, which eventually becomes the direction of the country. Thus, even in terms of nation building, there is no one systematic approach, nor constant approach. Therefore, successive countries continue to innovate to ensure the incorporation of new areas of significance and economic values for any emerging country. To this end, it appears that there must be constant adjustment or a fundamental reshaping in the light of country-specific needs and the extent to which they make adjustments to alter the direction of the country. Therefore, a case may be made for reset of the country in question, and consequently, the underlying principle of church and nation building may take a different direction. Kofi and Akuyajan, 2019, New Approach Towards Africa's Development, offers that the fact that rigid Western development paradigms have not been entirely successful suggests that development is a multi-dimensional process and must not be limited to ideals from one side of the globe. And to add to that, it will mean that it must not only be the national policy. The incorporation of faith-based organizations can also be very important, as you will see in a minute. Let's take an illustration from Singapore. Singapore is a very developed country today, but at independence, they were just like us. Their neighbors, Malaysia, were as poor as us. They came from palm fruits to go and plant over there. Now we are going there to see what they have done. We now buy palm oil for them for our soap. Singapore has advanced itself because it adopted the critical tenets of the Judeo-Christian beliefs. They didn't say they are Christians. In fact, in Singapore, most of the people are Chinese. But they adopted the principles within the Judeo-Christian beliefs. This process involved looking at the key elements of nation building, including the people, the values, integrity of leaders, philosophy of life, reinvestments in the wake of the people, and honest gain. Let's move to China. After Singapore, we take on the global giant, China. China does not foster climate for Christianity and basically takes off the name God from the critical elements that make for good society, including their current technology-driven society. But the lack of Christian awareness or the near absence of the church is not the end of the story. A careful observation shows that by and large, the Chinese model of development has premised on principles and practices that were key for the development of the industrial countries in Western Europe and the Americas. It stands to reason that the issue of being Christians and adopting the entire corpus of the Christian value system is critical in modeling some specific practices that are essential for any aggregation of human beings. It is in view of this that one finds it welcoming that Gustavo Gutierrez initiated the issue of liberation theology in Latin America. This approach sought to open up the oppressive system and ritualistic religious models that hindered the growth and prosperity of the people in Latin America. As a result, this mainly Catholic community began to look at democracy, rule of law, economic development from a more biblical model than the Semite approach. James Cone has done the same along with others on Black theology and how that inspires change in the believing community. Similarly, Alan Bosak was a leading exponent of Southern Africa Black theology during the apartheid system. The consequences were critical for contributing towards transformation. Indeed, Max Weber, the German sociologist, who is also often claimed by both political scientists and philosophers as well, indicated that there were certain key elements within the practices of the Protestant Christians in Western Europe that were beneficial for their economic sources and were on the path towards prosperity. In his work, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, the disciples of Protestant Christians, the disciplines of Protestant Christians, which encourage hard work, good work ethic, frugality, savings and investment and entrepreneurship, that open doors of unparalleled growth in incomes, wealth, and prosperity in Western Europe. A former Australian Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, tells the story of his first visit to India. Raised in a Christian home, his father was a congregational minister. He participated in a youth conference in Kochi, in Kerala State, when he was 23 years of age, was there at a stage in his life when he was seriously weighing up what he really believed about God, the Bible, Christianity, and the world around him. He had an experience that convinced him many Christians were insulated and did not care about the needs of the poor and the oppressed. During the event, he was shocked at the economic gap between the Christian community and other Indians. He wrote, "There were those comfortable Christians up the road singing about bringing Christ to the world and the world to Christ. And here was the world. And to the Christian, they seemed to be totally irrelevant, as the Christians were irrelevant to them. The encounter impressed him negatively about the impact of the church in action to make a difference. So he simply gave up being a Christian." What about you? Benevolence delayed, benevolence denied. We are going to the business committee. Bring a letter. They meet every 6 weeks. So we wait for 6 weeks before the surgery will be done and the person will stay. Then we'll have a big funeral. In Ghana, the church, as in the general Christendom, maintains quite an interest in nation building. That's although Achimota School and Ghana National College, and you know the history of Ghana National College, kids were sacked from the other schools. So Kwame Nkrumah, that was his first project of starting Ghana National College. Are notable exceptions for being government schools. The rest of outstanding high schools, such as the Methodists at Mfantsipim and Wesley Girls, the Anglicans at Adisade College and St. Monica's, the Roman Catholics at St. Augustine, St. Louis in Kumasi, are all mission-initiated institutions. Today, Opoku School, Brempe College, Mauli School, Aburi Girls, St. Louis School, and the likes, almost all the best secondary schools in Ghana, are a testimony to the contributions of Christianity to national development. And I must mention our own Village of Hope, producing the best SHS candidates for the WASI of West Africa. I saw the picture with Fred Asari in Nigeria with the student receiving his prize. That's just amazing. Again, Stephen Adair says that there can be a variety of models of engagement so that while the church does not become subservient to the state, at the same time, the church can become a partner in ways that transform the society and contribute to the well-being of the people and creation. He therefore offers that political in nature, social activists, education, or advocacy can affirm the equality of all races, gender, and class. Also, as one recognizes that the economic policies are tilted in favor of the rich and mighty, the church becomes the voice of sanity, seeking justice, especially for the poor and marginalized. It is partisan politics of accepting an ideology that is unacceptable, but somehow citizens must participate so that we can have our rights fully understood and accepted. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with these few words, I add my voice to the ongoing discussion that the church is not the nation, but the church has a role to play in the transformation of the nation state. Indeed, the church will undertake a huge disservice to itself if it sits aloof and just concentrates on meetings in our premises and not being engaged in the sanitation, spatial planning, care for orphans, supporting the well-being of prisoners, paying fees for the poor to get an education, and many other areas that are neglected. Jesus said, "I have come that they might have life and much more abundantly." Another actionable initiative would comprise the education of all ministers of the gospel on the Constitution of Ghana. It should be mandatory that every theological institution worth its salt in Ghana should have a 3-semester hour class on the Constitution of Ghana. An additional course should be a course in community development. This should prepare the ground for every religious group to recognize the need for understanding their responsibilities as citizens and as complementary roles that Christians can play towards nation building. This is because, by and large, whatever the church is seeking to inculcate in people are values that are eternal in terms of respect of people, sharing or giving. These are all founded on our Constitution, and they are not in conflict with the religious goals of our people, as found in the Hebrew and Greek scriptures of the Judeo-Christian faith. 3, Schools started by churches have often had profound effect in the country, as I just mentioned. In due course, they are in partnership relationship with the government for operational purposes. Interestingly, a visit to many of these churches, which may be next door to assisted schools, will show that most of these churches have neglected the schools. While the buildings are in fine shape, the schools are in bad shape. And so, as a result, the schools become just dumping grounds where they bring members of the church to be headmasters and subject teachers. But what do they do in addition? Other issues that can also be tackled is the challenge of the church in the 21st century with respect to nation building, but rather respecting, fostering, and building godly communities. We have seen the ideal types that contend with the context of rapid, confounding, and confusing change in human geopolitical organization. The church and society should continue to dialogue and equip our people towards peace, prosperity, and critical development. 6. Other civic responsibilities are available. How are Christians involved in the democratic processes of our country? Are they merely busy in the churches and not being involved in the affairs in their communities? Even though voting is voluntary, one may ask how many Christians freely vote in the general election without any inducement from political parties. And even those who are executives of political parties, do they do so out of a Christian willingness or because they will get money, stove? What do they get? Radio, gas cookers, gas cylinders, and what have you. Those of us who don't give those things, you know where we stand. We don't last long in that arena. Even though voting and that giving their free will, would they not undertake these efforts? How many of these Christians actually participate in the district assembly elections and may even become assembly members to ensure things are done right? If they did, what is their contribution in the area of responsibility? The church has come to stay. It is a very important institution, but what it impacts so that the evangelization process is grounded in a healthy atmosphere and that there's care for God's own creation. The National Peace Council, for example, is one institution that has helped with conflicts, interventions for political issues, and so forth. Where is the representation of the church in the National Peace Council? In another way, elections are expressed in the form of events being before, during, and after situations that often constantly provide a cause for concern. There are often persons who wish to cheat and take advantage of others through fair or foul means. The National Peace Council has undertaken some important exercise using eminent individuals such as chiefs, distinguished academics, persons called to the ministry, and retired officers in uniform. How does the church draw forces with the Christian council to participate in deliberations for peaceful elections? Where is the church to respond to the bishops' conference when they issue a communique expressing concern in one form or another? Finally, in 1961, there was a parliamentarian called BKK Guaido. He showed that he's a Christian of substance and that his politics was premised on the interest of the country of Ghana. So Guaido begged to differ of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and therefore maintain his principles and would not be silent as an opportunistic politician. He called attention to the fact that Kwame Nkrumah was being accorded as an infallible, immortal being, as if he was divine. And when he called attention the next day, he was removed as a minister of state. He lost his ministerial post immediately. Such individuals must be celebrated. But how many of us even know his name? The African shared society is based on the philosophy of communalism. Communalism consists of elements that can be found both in the church and the nation as a traditional society. Elders of the community work on the basis of promoting members' well-being for the common good. The chief acts in his personal capacity in promoting the living while honoring the dead and providing for a future generation. The authority of the chief and the elders were obeyed and respected, although their laws were uncodified, but based on truth and justice. People live together on the basis of goodwill, good conscience, and good neighborliness in the community. These humane elements were to foster the human values of family cohesion, social stability, respect for knowledge and wisdom, communal consent, communal self-reliance for the supply of basic needs, especially food, good neighborliness, which were manifest pictures of the African village. Today, can we speak of that in the present or in the past? After the Second World War, there was this German theologian who expressed in the poem, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And I did not speak out. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. So our involvement, our understanding in the nation, how we build the Ghanaian nation, is not a matter of the past glory of the church. Today, what is the church doing? And God has a lot to say about the poor, the marginalized, and the transformation of our society. So with these few words, I just want to encourage you that transformation begins with us. A generation ago, we talk only the work of the church is evangelism. But we are beginning to understand a university of this kind brings transformation. I thank you very much for your time and for the theology and ministry team and heritage. I pray for you often. I pray that this institution will grow and will continue to have these opportunities for dialogue. And I'm available as the question and answer time comes. Thank you very much.
We can do more. Let's go. Yeah. Thank you, Doc, and thank you all for patiently listening to him. We have about 30 minutes for questions. So as he drinks water, you prepare your question. I'll begin from my right, and then I'll move this way. So if you have questions, if I leave this session, I won't come back to this session again. So those who have questions here, let me see. Yes, please press the other mic. You can give me the other mic. Oh, okay, good.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teria. My question has to do with how practically Christians can get involved in nation building. So, from your talk, basically from the Old Testament, if I can put it that way, there was a point in time where there wasn't any distinctiveness between the church and the nation. And this continued to the point where we have that distinction. Now, the world is run on certain principles that do not allow Christians to be main people at the helm of affairs. I mean, yourself as an example, when you stated that because you did not go a certain route, you did not last long in that arena. How can we aggressively as Christians do this? For instance, I hear certain denominations come out with slogans like, we're taking over the nation, we are the ones who are supposed to lead. This has been the means. Can't we also develop a means where we use the church subtly to fight these principles and get ourselves up there?
Thank you. Is there any question? Yeah, we take three and then.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I've got about 2 questions. The first one has to do with the point that Kateria mentioned that the church is not a nation, but the church should not sit aloof as far as nation building is concerned. But in a nation that is almost divided on the partisan political lines, this is something that's an open secret. We are divided on partisan political lines. If you do not take care, you say something with neutral intentions, with good intentions in order to push the government to do something for the poor, the vulnerable, and so on and so forth. And you might get tagged as an MPP person or an NDC person. And that, if you're a minister, could hinder the work that you do, because you are standing there and people have already tagged you. This guy is an MPP guy. As though the NDC people come to church and anything the man says from the pulpit, you don't listen. So what do we do? How do we be a group that is not supposed to just sit aloof, while also doing it in such a way that we don't end up being tagged, which ends up essentially destroying the work we are doing. And then again, you mentioned, I think at the point you said that the church is trying to be distinct. The church is trying to be, is supposed to be distinct. Then you quoted the likes of Amos chapter 5, where these prophets went out there and spoke to their kings and spoke to the people in high authorities because they were failing to do what was right. How can the church be distinct and at the same time be a prophetic voice pushing government to do things that help the poor, the vulnerable, and those in need?
Okay. I think your two questions are related. The issue is, how can we mobilize? Yes. We have taken the concept of congregational autonomy to the extent that we don't even talk to each other. So there's no mobilization. At some point in time, there was an active health ministry in Accra. Is the health ministry still going? How often do they meet? What is the project? I don't know. And as unimportant as I am, if I don't know, that's okay. But the thing is, who knows? Who even knows? At least we can put it out for everybody to be aware of. The churches in the zones where these things were being carried out, is everyone a member? How many of us can go and help with the cardiothoracic center at Kolebu Teaching Hospital when they need a critical machine? My congregation, our highest giving is 8,000 Ghana cedis on a Sunday. And that machine is about 80 million. How do we mobilize money like that? So we must begin to see wisdom of our coming together without having a secretariat, anything. It's voluntary. But we are willing to come together because we are a community. It's God's community. We want to be able to, what is our national strategy for evangelism in this country? Do we have a national strategy? We don't. We don't talk to each other. When was the last time Heritage Bible Department, let me put you on the spot, spoke with the Takrady school, the Kumasi school, the Tamale school? We don't. When was the last time Sunrise School in Ho, Village of Hope Junior High School, Ateku, Church of Christ High School spoke to each other? We don't. And you see, we have the Conference of Managers of Unit Schools. And I'm going to bring them here. I'm working with President. We'll bring them here to have the meeting here. The unit is Methodist, Presbyterian, Anglican, Catholic, and a few others. And the military, police and the military. And these are the people who plan and dialogue with the government and get resources. Our schools, how do we get resources? We don't. Because who recognizes us? The National Peace Council, because I worked at GIMPA, we gave them the training for them to begin the process. Do we even know anything about the National Peace Council? We don't. But they are representatives from the Christian Council of Ghana. And so many of the institutions, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment of the Ministry of Education, religious bodies are on it. So if we stay out, we are doing a great disservice to ourselves because we become voiceless. But I don't want to step out there and be the one who is representing the church. Who gave me the authority. But when wisdom prevails, and we have my big brother, Brother Evans, all these many years, we come together, we talk about it, a critical mass of people. Maybe the older generation, all of us over 60 years, we are too much in the old system. The younger generation, Brother Jima, he was here a short while ago. Yes. And many others. Kwame Chumesi, younger ones, we pull together and begin to talk. Yes, begin to talk to realize that the church is distinct. We are not going to cede our independence to these institutions. However, we pay taxes in this country. We have the right to get these things as well. And so what do we do to get them? What do we do to get them? If you start a college right now and you ask the government to absorb it, they will absorb it. They will pay all the teachers. They will add to the infrastructure. All you will need is what? Your chaplain to continue with your ministry. What a blessing. You have a critical role in selecting the principal and some of the leaders in the institution. So we may be staying in the same old-fashioned approach. We are a distinct people and a destroyed people because we won't get ahead. So the issue is, unless we network among ourselves and have a stronger presence. I'm a consultant to the founders of private universities. Yesterday, we issued a statement. Anybody heard that? Founders of private university about the nurses. But many things that we do underground. We had Brother Jakun representing this group, but they, who are the founders? So the bottom line is, we've got to up our game. Those who are going to study community development, you will find a relationship between community development and the church as what? Playing complementary roles. And so what do we get from the Department of Community Development? The agent, Brother Kakari's work with the agent, Village of Hope, what do we get? There are so many resources. Dr. Nagai, who is a member of our fellowship, was working on HIV/AIDS, medical doctor, and so many resources at the Ghana AIDS Commission. Churches write for grants and they get them. They write, all the embassies in Ghana, they have grants that they give to organizations. If you write it well, you win. Village of Hope, the technicals who want it. But how many? We don't even talk to one another. Within the fellowship, how much more having representation to go and talk to people? So until we do that, but again, I have explained it. We are not saying we want to become like them. However, in our distinctiveness, the things that we are doing, they are seeking to do it. And they have the resources to help us to do it better. Catholic Relief Services, they get so many resources. AGRA, Assemblies of God Relief Services, ADRA, Adventist Relief Services, they get so many resources. You see some of their cards with USAID logo on it, UNICEF logo on it. And we can start KGs and UNICEF will help us. UNICEF have 14 districts in Ghana where they have operations. And if you approach them, we want to build a school and all the things that go with it. They are looking at transparency. They are looking at sustainability. If you can do those things, they will support you. But how do we know? So we are calling every theological institution, yours included, Heritage, that there must be a study of the Constitution. Because if you don't understand the Constitution of Ghana, who we are, what we do, what is available to us, where are you going in the first place? Then in the second place, you need to understand community development, because by and large, the church is in the community. When we see the garbage, that swallows us. The bad water, where we get our typhoid from. The plastic waste, and we don't do anything about it. Then, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Go and see the ocean. Go to Agogoshi and see the Kole Lagoon. You'll be surprised. People live in that place. Why should they be condemned to such conditions? Then on Saturday, we expect to have them dress up and come to church. But put that aside. The other side of it, we expect that somebody has the education, the understanding, and everything. When we approach them, we spend 2 hours with them, we teach them, they are baptized and they become Christians. Do you know how they have been molded? In the night, my friend Nicholas was telling me, we were talking about Victoria Island in Lagos. He said in the night, it's like you see nice people as if they are not even human beings. Those are the people who come to your church Sunday morning. But in the night, they are prostitutes, male and females. In Osu, go to Togo Embassy. And I'm sure everybody here knows. At least you will find 50 ladies standing on the roadside. Go to Mensvik Hotel on that stretch, Lagos Avenue, Media Pharmacy, all the way to the Islamic Mosque. You'll be surprised how many ladies you see after 8:30 p.m. I used to live out there, that's why I know. The thing is, how are we ministering to those people? Are they condemned already? And if we baptize any one of them, how do we do to bring about transformation? I'm glad that they have a program here to prepare people to be self-reliant because there are no jobs. You go to Accra Central, Okanshi, Accra Central at 9 p.m. and see the number of people who are sleeping outside. All they have is in their pocket. These ladies have come here from the north or sometimes from the south as well. They have no place to sleep. A journalist stayed up with them. If you saw that, the documentary on Joy News, they put plastic to cover themselves when the ladies in their clothes and outside. They have nowhere to go. They are raped by watchmen and they have babies and they are well. So you see them carrying things, the baby at the back. They don't have anywhere to go. What is the church doing about this thing? I was sick. I was hungry. I was naked. I was in prison. What did we do? There must be a call for action. It's not enough to listen and be happy about where you are. We must be concerned about mobilization.
So this place.
Thank you, sir. My question is, who should start this? Yes. The next one is, why have we talking about it now?
Yes. We should start. And why are we talking about it now? At least I was me. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Williams Noah, alumni 2021. The first time I saw the post about this program, the first thing that came to my mind was, why are Christians not involving themselves in politics? But from this discussion, I realized that when we talk about nation building, it goes far more than that. My question is, or what I have to say is that we don't have problem with the church promoting or involving in nation building, but we have problem with Church of Christ involving in nation building. Because I quite remember last year, getting to the closing of the year, we had a discussion that Church of Christ wanted to meet the president after he was elected. And we wanted to go to Flagstaff House. And so many, arguments came up. Some churches will say we are not spiritual. Some churches will say we are my question here is, when you say the church and nation building, are you talking about Church of Christ and nation building, or the church in general? Because I know that from the outside Church of Christ, so many churches are involved in nation building. Yes. So I want to know, are you talking about Church of Christ and nation building? When Muhammad was elected, he... Okay. Thank
you. Why now? Because it's better late than never. So let's start today. Who should start? With you. Write your name first. Create a platform, add my name. I know somebody who is talking to me, and we'll go from there. The faculty at the community development, some at the theology, and there are quite a number of brothers who are concerned about these issues. It's just that we haven't come together. The lawyers in our church have come together. We have nurses, they should come together. Have they come together? Nurses. I know quite a number, at least I know 20 members of the church who are not. At least I know 10 medical doctors within our fellowship. And you see, the moment we start doing that, then we can go out for outreach. We can access money from Ministry of Health. Look, it's the connections. If I go to the Ministry of Health right now, the Honorable Minister is next door to me. I'm from Bia, he's from Gaboso. He comes to my place, I go to his place, so we can have a talk. The next one, Honorable Samsiahi, is next door. When you go to the east, Bia East. So if we get critical mass of people, there are things we can do. And this world is made up of what? Connections. That's why we go to places. You meet people, you get the ideas, you make contact, you build upon it. You build upon it. So that's how it goes. We can start right now. The issue of us not being out there, and therefore what I'm talking about, is it about the Church of Christ, or is it about Christendom as a whole? It's both. Christendom as a whole. Right now, we have so many independent community churches, individual one-man churches that don't do anything. There are so many denominations in this country now with the charismatic and Pentecostal group who are not doing anything on the national level. They are inward looking. They take care of themselves. How many secondary schools? How many hospitals? Do you know the Holy Family hospitals? We have 47 colleges of education. Catholic, 8. Presby, 7. Methodist, 6. Ahmadiyya, 1. Islam, 2. And Churches of Christ. Okay? So, why so? Because we are not taking certain initiatives. Those who are around universities, the up and coming generation. And you see, the first wave of the church was for establishment. Now it's consolidation. Consolidation means that we are penetrating into the creep of the society. Because we have them. Because we have them. At what point in time did we have PhD people in the church? There he is, a minister of the gospel. Bona fide, not this Buga PhD. Bona fide PhD, theoretical framework PhD. You see it? Yes, we have them. We have them. Masters. This our brother said, when I went to University of Ghana in the 80s, hey, now that he's gone to university, can we pay him? Can we pay him? The church where I was preaching, they let me go. Yes, because they can't pay me. He's going to study theology from university, and then he will come here and you confuse the doctrine. Well, I'm glad that you have come of age that we have a school of theology and ministry. So the bottom line is, it takes time. It takes time, but we cannot be at the same point. So it's for the general Christendom, those I talked about having a nice Methodist church building. Next to them is the basic school they established in 1954. Nothing has been done to the building. And theirs is now tiled. They have, what do you call it? How they paint the building. Gaviato. The building is nice. The music, everything. But look at the school building. They come there 5 times a week. And they come to that church 3 times a week. So, renewal for those who have been in contact. And now rebuilding, rebranding for those who are now, for those who are at the margins. Yes, there must be some speed because some groups have been left behind for a very long time.
We want to close at least by 3 o'clock. So this lane, if there are questions. If there are no questions, move to this lane. You have one. Right, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tewia. You talked about the Protestant work ethic and its relationship to nation building. Given the boom of Christianity on the continent, you used Singapore as an example. Why hasn't the growth of Christianity seemingly had the same influence on this continent in terms of economic progress? You understand what I'm asking?
Okay, you have one. Okay.
Okay. Your presentation, you said there's no. When you are answering the question, you said there's division among us. I'm speaking from Church of Christ perspective. There's division among us. So why do we end up here? I want to know. Because we are not involving in national activity. So why do we end up here? That now we are coming back to revisit. Is it our doctrine or the mode of teaching? Or I want to know, why do we end up here? And then how can we also come together?
Thank you very much. My question is, given the decade-long conflict in the Boko conflict, yes, between the Mamprisi and the Kusasi, where there are churches. Okay. Given the decade-long conflict in the Boko municipality between the Mamprisi and the Kusasi, where there are churches in both areas, I want to ask, why is there still no peace? Is it that the church isn't doing much, or their initiative is conflicting with political or state issues? Yes.
And Edu, you said your question, one of your questions was not answered. Which one?
Okay. All right. Being prophetic means that you do what? You provide a critique. We are not talking about people who said they had a dream and God said tomorrow they should take some women and bath them in the beach. And then their market is going. That would be a prophet if there's such a thing. But being prophetic, you see, a prophet is foretelling and foretelling. Foretelling is the future. But foretelling is like you have an older person in the house, because of wisdom and experience, can guide you. When we read the scriptures and we see the thing God says to us, and for example, these days that men and women don't marry much, Rather, they just move in and stay together. And you see somebody and say, this thing you are doing is going to hurt you because he didn't take the time to marry you. You are going to stay with him. And then what will happen? When you get a child, you throw your things out with you and your baby. What are you doing? You are being prophetic in the sense that you are doing what? Forth-telling. So the idea of providing a critique, look at the LGBT++. What was the input of Churches of Christ? They had national hearings. I was one of the 19 MPs who were promoting that bill with Sam George, of course, and the La MP, La Dadikotopon MP, and many others. Yes. So anyway, what was our voice? We didn't have a voice in there. So the bottom line is something must be done to pick it up. And that brings ahead to the question of the Kusasis and the Mampusis. To a large extent, what has happened is we have come to appreciate the idea of the early church, the involvement of the early church in evangelism, the truthfulness of the church, but we have not embraced every aspect of it. So the benevolence, that must go. The social action. The church was everything to the early Christians. And when you study church history, it was everything for them. To the point that they led the country. It got to the point they led the country. And that also became a disaster. Because you didn't have people with the right motivation. So the bottom line is, what do we do at this level so that we can bring about transformation? The churches in the Kusasi communities, we can start working with the chiefs, not in the middle of this conflict. This conflict is too big for us. We can pray for them. We can even have a prayer service for them. Do we do that? Do we do that? How many of us prayed for peace in the Middle East this morning at your breakfast table? Because it has impact on us here. Yes, it has impact on us here. So the bottom line is we are not isolated from these things. But when we have the opportunity, we have to do training. We have to do training. There are Kusasi organizations in the South, some with some influential impact in the North that we can work with. And through that, have a meeting with the National Peace Council. Sponsor their trip even to the place. Are you talking of using God's money to go and sponsor a tribal trip? We have to come to terms with that. That's how we engage with the country. The people who have been displaced over there, what have we sent to them? So the issue is, it's not just right now we get everything done, but we have to start talking about it, be in our planning. People must see this as something God is calling for them to do. As you study community development and theology, you begin to understand why people are still poor. Yes, in this country, anywhere you stick cassava stick, it will grow. In the 80s, a group of Christians from Accra, in Sam Road and other places where there were churches, they left to go and settle in Bodriase to raise animals, to do farms, corn, and others. Now people are going to Edra to go and do farms because they can't find any jobs. How many of you have seen the lady who is a university graduate and is a cobbler? He's preparing shoes. Anybody? Yes. She does that with pride. And if this lady get a little bit of sponsorship and the machines that are necessary, she can be producing her own shoes. Heritage is encouraging that, which is very good. But the point is, we have to be talking among ourselves. Ministers, you don't have to be a minister. You don't have to wear a title. It's just that you are motivated to do the right thing. Something comes out as a burden to you because you see that, and if we put ourselves together, we can make that change that is necessary and needed. Okay. Why did we end up here? We end up here because at each point in the phases of the development of the church, we emphasize sometimes unwittingly one aspect or the other. So sometimes our focus on sound doctrine becomes so pronounced that we tend to neglect what? The other areas of life. In fact, if Village of Hope had not taken up this orphanage and the technical school, the hospital, and the other projects they are involved in, the schools in Teku and so forth, where would we be in this country? What can we point our fingers to? But you see, an enduring institution such as a church must have what? Must also have enduring institutions. Because if given anything at all, Village of Hope Senior High School probably get 200 students every year. Every Sunday, somebody will preach to that 200. Do you know the impact of that 200? I sent 2 girls there from my village. One of them graduated from the University of Ghana in dietetics. And the other is an entrepreneur herself. So the bottom line is, change can come, but only when we take action. If we don't take any action, nothing will happen. Nothing will change if we don't do anything. So something must happen. All right, the Protestant ethic. Yes. Why is it that we have not embraced the principles of the Protestant ethic? Singapore embraced them. We have done very well because we like the ghetto style, the ghetto life. You know what the ghetto life is? You eat and throw the thing around. You don't have to go to work. This morning, I was shocked when I saw the number of people who were falsified for the National Service Scheme there. The lady even took a loan on non-existent students. And what is the name of the student who was put in the system 254 times? He's what? He's saying something. His name was in the system for 254 times. And they were taking the salary. A lady. She has even gone with a letter showing that these people are deducting this money from them. So he has gone to take a 3 million facility from ADB. Stolen money. So he's already taking the money ahead of time. So the ghetto style. People are actually going to church, but they have not been converted. So there's no spirituality. There are no values connected to their faith. Why am I a member of the church? Because I go to church. But what happens on Monday is not a reflection of what happened on Sunday. When we have the celebration on Sunday, you should direct how we do things on Monday. You get my point? So the ethic, reinvestment, commitment to hard work. The women in the market that get the loan, which are given by the Women's World Bank and many other financial institutions, when they do it, and people come there to sell shoes, they buy shoes. When they are selling meat, they buy meat. When they are selling yam, they buy yam. And then there are members of associations that get together for funerals. Every week they buy cloth for something. There's no separation between the capital and the profits. So in the end, like I said, a lady called me. She said, Rogerson, I'm calling you under the bed. And I said, what's going on? She said, I took this loan and they have come to collect the money. I said, then give the money back to them. She said, I bought rice and I was selling the rice. When it rains, they don't buy the rice. Then I bring it home and I eat with the children. So now the money is gone and the interest is high and they have come. I paid for the rice. I bought her a sewing machine, but she's just not going to be able to do it. She has too many children. I'll talk about population. Yes. In 1970, Ghana's population was what? 10 million. Today, the population is what? 33 million. Yes. I am shocked. Tomorrow, I'm going to my old student association meeting. I'm handing over as the president. And the funny part of it is, on the average, everybody has 6 kids. 6. How do you take care of 6 children? And I'm telling the people in my village, you have 2. And then if anything at all, accident, get 1. Or they will have 2 girls and they say, oh, we want a boy. So 3, and you are finished. How many are they getting? 6. Educated people with whatever. I mean, some of my friends are very successful. But you have this many kids. How are you going to take care of them? And some, we are all in our 60s. I mean, the youngest will be 60 this year. And what is happening? Some have children who are not yet in class 1, first grade. They have squandered the pension money already. So how are you going to take care of this? So the church must be a teaching place. The values that we teach. I was talking about moral intelligence, financial intelligence, legal intelligence. So the church should provide total education, because there are people who are coming to the church who don't know anything. They don't know their rights and responsibilities with the Constitution, with the the laws of Ghana. Everybody, we are initiating a PhD in Parliament. It's all done. We're just going to start it. A lot of people who are coming, they are not true in these matters, and we have to get them schooled, because otherwise, you can all sit there and vote. You wake the person up and say, how we vote? How can this person bring about the change? But let's start at home. Your zone. Begin with your zone. Begin with like-minded. The youth group in your congregation. The professional groups in the church. Gradually, we will get somewhere. Again, I thank you very much for coming. This is the beginning of a dialogue. It's not completed yet. And so I'm available. We can still talk. I can talk to a small group. We talk about the Christian and politics. Some of you are interested in that. The Greater Accra Youth. So the video is available. You can look at that. The whole night I talked about the Christian and politics from biblical perspective, practical ways in which you can do it, and things you shouldn't do. All right. So again, Dean Bills and Dr. Douglas Ofori. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you. Thank you for honoring our invitation. We are very, very, very honored. We appreciate what you have done today. I'm sure all of us have taken some lessons or notes from what you said. As you said, if you still have more questions, you can contact him, and I'm sure he will answer. We'll invite him again So maybe before the end of the year, we'll invite you again. God bless you. Thank you. Dean, you have anything? No. So if nothing, we want to pray, and then we'll leave. The old students. You prayed. Another old student will close us. The D-term old student. Okay, Noah. Yes, come for the mic. And then all D-term old students will wait after after closing. We want to speak with you.
Please, let's humbly be on our feet. Please, please. Lord God Almighty, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, we thank you this day. We glorify you. We thank you, Lord, for bringing us here safely. We started this lectureship in your name because you are Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. We ask of you that, Father, may you see us through and give us successful lectureship. You have glorified yourself, O Lord. Father, by your help, we have closed this lesson. I pray that, Father, may you bless, O Lord, the resource person. Father, anything, Father, he missed or anything that left him during this delivery, I pray that, Father, may you bless him and bless his family. Bless everything that, Father, he lost. As, O Lord, is leaving, may your holy angels go before him, and may your presence, O Lord, go before him and take him to where he's going safely. Father, we the hearers, I pray that, Father, may we not be only hearers, but may we be doers of these words, O Lord. As your children, help us to apply this lesson in the world, so that, Lord, what you say, that we are the salt and we are the light of the world, it may, O Lord, take place. That, Father, great things may come out and we can also bring impact to the world. Father, bless all of us. Bless Heritage